it's actually working. All right, folks, I'll go ahead and call budget hearing. I don't know what the number is, to order. And Chad, if you would here to call roll for us, please.
Dr. Acuff,
Present.
Billy Gwynn,
Here.
Brad Johnson,
Here.
Danny Deal,
Here.
Layla Ward,
Here.
Donnie Cable,
Here.
Aaron Frazier,
Here.
Cody McQueen.
Here. All right, motion to adopt the agenda. Floor is open. You introduce this.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Acuff, second by Ms. Gwynn. Any additions, corrections, or requested changes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on. First up, Director Schupler, Planning Department.
Good afternoon, everyone. First consideration is naturally the Planning Commission budget. The additional adage of monies that you see there is from the line item change on the Duke Solution Brightly software for building permits, and the other is the additional monies that came in for testing of streams since our order from director's order from Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. They no longer honor our other streams that we agreed to work with Elizabeth and TDEC on, so we're going to have to go back and start doing our own monitoring systems on that. With that said, does anyone have any questions?
On the part-time personnel, did you add a new part-time?
On part-time, I'm having a hard time finding someone to do GIS. It's very difficult. That's why we did the adage of the monies there. Attempting to get somebody in here part-time from ETSU, a graduate student or someone of that nature, sir. Unfortunately, I'm going to say this, and you'll think Brad Johnson's talking, but they think they're worth more than what they are, for somebody to walk in.
Is there somebody?
It's Brad, but that's what you would have said.
Is it possible that we could turn it into a contract type service?
Well, I looked into that, Mr. Frazier. To be honest with you, we still don't have the money to do it as a contract service. That's what Sullivan County's doing right now. They're still attempting, and they're offering a whole lot more money than we are to bring somebody in at least part-time, if not full-time. And our hourly wage is not going to be sufficient enough. I do have an individual that is working on their master's that I've been speaking with. She just had a baby not long ago, and we're working on that one. I did have some kids from Hampton that was willing to try, but I have a 17-year-old who's the oldest one I've got, so I can't really bring him in to work with us until they're 18. Unless Miss Watson tells me something different. She'll give me east to west, so that ain't gonna work. I've dug every mole hole I can. I'm still trying.
The classifications haven't changed.
Once I get the billing for it. That's what it calculates out to, but that's not.
Under other wages, salaries and wages,
Yes, sir.
could you explain to me what those are?
Other salary and wages, that concludes with my codes enforcement individual and my stormwater individual. There's also some money in there for their certifications. They get so much additional monies per certification. Like Mr. Miller right now, he's going to Knoxville this week to get his level 2 in stormwater. So he can do design plans and things of that nature. That'll be a certification that'll up his money somewhat.
He's supposed to be, out of the, or budgeted in the salary line items, because I know that was passed by resolution the personnel that meet certain criterias and certifications are awarded X amount of dollars per.
Yes, sir.
Is that, I mean, that's what
That's part of that money. And then also last year, we didn't end up hiring somebody for quite a while, for stormwater. It was hard to find. But I do have a college graduate with, environmental science. I tricked him in coming here, Mr. Donnie. No, I'm just kidding.
The situation we got into, what was it, 2 months ago pertaining to whatever it was with the state on,
RMS4 program.
where is that at now?
Right now, we're waiting on mapping. I've been kind of trying to get everything else together on it. The mapping software computer is actually sitting in my office right now. I'm hitting it every chance I get. It's just, I had somebody that say, I need this, this, and this. I want to be able to handle it. Mr. Miller has some training, but when it gets into the technical spiral analysis and things of that nature, you have to break down into the GIS system. He doesn't have that type of training. So I need somebody that's got a whole lot more knowledge than me, but a little bit of knowledge would help.
But whatever items, what I'm trying to get at is, whatever it's going to take for us to get it back in line, if it is, is it reflected in your budget?
Yeah, that's where the additional, on line item 322, that's why it went up from 7550 to 12,800. That's for the additional testings and samplings of our streams. So that will bring us more into compliance, even though we had an agreement that we could utilize. Now they're saying the agreement's no good. So we're going back and punting.
So Carolyn, you all used benefit increase of 15%.
Yes, once we go through financial management next week,
It'll drop by at least a
then
half.
I'll go back and change all the ones that we've currently already seen and just give them all back to the committee with the change in that, and then the TCRS as well. The next group that will come to this will have the new ones, but I couldn't change it until it's gone through.
And to keep us from having to go back to planning commission, Dr. Acuff, I went ahead and initiated to allow them to know that there is some adjustments will be made, either increases or decreases in salary type line items, insurance, TCRS, things of that nature, so we don't have to come back and play the Brad Barker game.
Just one correction on planning budget. Next to the last column, which is labeled D, proposed should be for 23-24, not 21-22.
Thank you, I made that. Okay. On that one. Please.
And thanks for putting the total benefits in a separate column.
Is that what you were
Yes.
looking for?
Thank you.
Okay.
On your salary sheet,
Yes, sir.
you got 246, total 246, 11.80. That's your estimated salary. Add up all your salaries over on your budget sheet, you got 257,170. Include all your budget, all your salary items, including the 8,000 other than the 79.5 salary. All those add up to 257,170.
So on the salary sheet, those are the actual employee salaries, which I will mention to the group. Please don't leave this information laying because this is confidential information. However, in last year's budget, you will see that some of them were budgeted higher in those categories than they were the previous year. So when it comes to elected officials, which this was one of the things I was going to bring up tonight, on elected officials' budgets, which you're going to hear some of the other ones, I'll use Chad's for an example, but I don't think his was like that this particular cycle. If they have a budget from a prior year in a line item, if they come in less than that, I don't reduce it. So in some of he's hired people in at a lower level. I did not go in and reduce those. So that's kind of up to the committee. That's what it appeared had been done historically with all departments, not just elected officials. Elected officials, we are required to do that. I cannot go in and change them, even if they are short people. On appointed officials or appointed directors, I guess technically I can. They don't have the same maintenance of effort / rules, but I did leave it as is. Just so you know, that's something that if we need to go back and adjust it later, we could. But if somebody's brought in a new employee, they could be needing to do something for them at 90 days or so forth. So I'll leave that as it is.
With that said, I do it.
Look, there are some differences in there. So that's probably the difference that you're looking at.
I do a 90-day and a 180-day reevaluation of those individuals, whether or not I'll bring them up to the full pay scale that we have, on top of whatever they get their certification.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You also notice that in the benefits. So if you have employees that are coming in as vacant positions or they're new employees that haven't been through the full cycle yet, I typically go in and try to put benefits in there for them because they have the option to take those benefits. We had that happen in another department last year. An employee decided when we came into open enrollment to take benefits, well, we didn't budget for that because they hadn't taken it before. And so then you're short basically $15,000. So he is to go ahead and put it in, even though you don't need it because you don't want to have that deficit.
Have you calculated what the percentage increase is from prior year budget for what the request is now?
I think Carolyn's got it on here.
I didn't do it just in total, I did it per line item. I just did it by line items.
No,
People can't get into the meeting, I just want to throw that out to you all. It's not a text, somebody's trying to get in.
Locked out.
we're gonna go back to the way out.
She said the locked doors downstairs were locked and people couldn't, I guess somebody's trying to get in.
That's why it's peaceful.
I don't know who was supposed to unlock the doors. I don't have keys.
It's 5.6, 5.7, 5.6%, Brad? 5.68, 5.7?
So consider what inflation and everything else has been, what we just experienced before it's set to level. That's still below.
Yeah, and you'll notice he had some line items that actually went down in the prior year. So that kind of helped offset some of the other stuff that we don't have any option on.
Director, what's the status on your vehicles?
I've got two almost brand new vehicles that are under 30,000 miles. Have one older vehicle that's over 200,000 miles, which is a Jeep. I keep it for the mountain lands when we have to go in those areas because they go better. Then I've got the Trailblazer that I inherited I bought off of the Assessor Properties Office. It's still running good. I think it's got 195,000 on it. So keeping maintenance up on them, doing PMI, PMCS on them, and making sure they're going. You did notice we had 35, I think it's 35. That was left in for a vehicle. And I requested we have 3,500 left in. Hopefully this year we can sell one. If you're gonna start having problems, then we'll move forward and try to get another one. Maybe, possibly. We'll see what the economy does and where we go from there. I'm having 3 vehicles out just every day, just about.
I don't know if it's considered because knowing that it's easier to get taken care of during the budget process than it is in the middle of the year.
Yes, sir. That's why I requested to hold that money for a vehicle just in case. Don't want to put any more stress on you guys than you're already receiving.
Should they know what stress is?
Any more questions pertaining to the planning budget itself?
He was huffing and puffing.
It's good for me.
Anybody have any questions for Director Schuler on this one, or we want to move on to flood control?
We could have rolled with paper towels and. What's to do?
Solving problems, making life better. Doors propped up with paper towels.
Got him with the crack of.
So people
Open the
can-
door. Took care of this.
Last one out, pull that paper towel. Is it in the back door or the front door? What? Is it in the back door or the front door?
That's where we get away.
All right, let's jump over to flood control and go through it real quick. And if you have any other questions, we can always come back to it.
Okay, our flood control is an unfunded mandate through the federal government that allows individuals within Carter County to receive flood insurance if possible. It is cut to the very, very bare minimum that I can justify with FEMA if we get audited. I went through 3 audits already at this price and it skimmed kind of through. We got a new hot shot down in Nashville that works with FEMA. She's a flood coordinator for the state of Tennessee. I hope I can slide it right on by at this low amount. We try to do educational stuff, give out to lending institutions about getting flood insurance, especially there's a lot of people out here, believe it or not, are paying cash for properties, even at today's rates. So they don't carry flood insurance. Well, I hate to tell you, but I've been here over 30 years and we've had several nice floods. So flood insurance is a definite must. This used to be a 50-50 charge. Federal government paid 50% of the flood insurance for your individuals. Now it's down, it's 100% on the individuals. So, but it is an unfunded mandate and it is a necessity that we have it. If not, we would not get any federal loans, VA loans, THDA loans, or anything of that nature within Carter County.
If it doesn't skate by, what would it jump to?
As least amount as I can get it, Mr. Fraser. You got my word on that. They're really getting kind of crazy, and I think they're even doing it in law enforcement too. TBI, different, is they're wanting, we're mandated if we have a flood, a major flood, that we have to document ASAP. That's what our $100 charge is for a drone. I don't have a drone pilot anymore because I had to fire him. But anyways, with that said, I will have somebody trained up, and we do have the sheriff's department. I'm sure Sheriff Fraley would take care of that if we had to. If not, I have an individual that will still fly for me to take the reconnaissance and things of that nature. Where we used to have to call in the National Guard, if you remember the flood of '98, and the Blackhawks, and then individuals want to take joyrides instead of doing what they really need to do for us. That's why we end up having to take a drone. But I promise you, it'll be as cheap as possible.
Well, let's do that. It's getting still unencumbered for June 21, even though we're 23 in the middle. But if you look across the bottom from start to finish, if they maintain the same all along, well, I think the unencumbered probably would be too, but
You've got 1 or 2 vacancies right now, Chris.
Right now, I really have 2 vacancies per se. I'm holding on pretty hard to keep the one there. He's retiree.
but those are part-time, those are part-time.
Yes, sir.
I work for them. Sir, I work for them.
Yes, sir, Senior Master Chief.
Yeah.
Everything else for?
Well, thank you all for your time. If you need anything at all, just give me a call, okay?
Thanks, Chris.
Have a blessed time.
Carolyn, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on your toes. Did you? Oh, you didn't say earlier. Oh, okay, good.
I was just thinking additional instructions for, ones that haven't done some of this before, about not leaving the payroll sheets out there, and they don't have names in them for a reason. That's people's privacy, and then the comment I made about the benefits and so forth, depending on if it's an employee that's in there,
All right, next up.
Basically do that anyway, because you've got, say, it's building opening, or you got vacancy in any department. Hopefully, that you can fill, and only the objective is to have 100% employees to do your work. Then if that is vacant during budget time, it should be fully funded, because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Instead of coming in the middle of the year or near the year, have to hit your unfunded balance.
Yeah, that happened in a department last year, and it was a small department that had very minimal employees in it, so it was a big hit. Now, if there is a department that has an employee that hasn't taken it in the past, and if they're like retirement age, for example, so they're not going to change, then I do leave it out. But if there is a possibility that they could have a changing event that would throw them into benefits, we go ahead and put it in there, because we have to offer it.
Because if you don't do that, that's under the Department of Corrections and then the Sheriff's Department too, the control section, all the vacancies they had, if we'd passed through this budget without obligating that line item, look what a mess we would have in the center of the year.
Hearing nothing, trustee's office.
Good evening, everyone. In front of you, you should have my proposed budget for 2023, 2024 fiscal year. I'll answer any questions you may have.
I know everyone is also on the benefit side for dental insurance, is that it's at a 17%, that goes to employees that false teeth rather than.
Not exactly. Not exactly. So I will bring that up since we're in that. So last year, which I'm taking steps to hopefully offset some of that this year, when we went in and made budget adjustments for what we were told is the average, I put it in the budget as the average. That was like an 11th hour thing. Well, when I got the actual, what we found is they're not all obviously in the average. It's called an average for a reason. Some of them are extensively higher, some of them are lower. If you had a department, which this is one of the departments that is hit, everybody is in that top bracket, that number was a lot higher than 13%. So in a department like mine that's larger, has more employees, and they kind of are spread out between the different plans, it'll average out pretty close to that. But if the department had everyone in that top bracket, then yes, they are going to be short for this year. So what we will do for this budget cycle is we'll go in about 2 to 3% higher than what they tell me the average is. So that way everybody should be okay. I won't have the actual information as to how much each plan cost until much later in the process, which is too late for the budget. I didn't expect that significant of a swing between the different plans last year. So we know this year to kind of anticipate for that.
Looks like historically you've not had part-time personnel. Are you adding a part-time person right now?
No, what it is, that clerical personnel is where I have that person right now. And that is the lady who I've actually now hired in as a full-time, part-time person. I initially thought, remember, I came in and asked for that amendment. That's what that is. And we're trying to keep her on a complete full year for part-time only, no benefits, nothing like that, just straight part-time. And mainly because we're needing somebody really to learn the tax relief program, somebody else. I have an older staff, so I need somebody else that's younger to come in and that may have quite a few years left to work here and try to learn that for us. So that's why that's on there.
I have a question on the proposed 23-24. You're showing on yours like a 4.76% increase, and then on your deputies a 10.18%. What is that? Is that a raise?
As far as the elected official, I think that's on there for our raise that's supposed to happen.
Has to be.
Yeah,
So what about the deputies?
that I would have to ask Miss Carolyn.
Is that where we switched that person over?
Let me think. Because there are no increases in there. Now, state officials, yeah, or elected officials, yes. The state tells me what the minimum is, which historically that's what's been put in there. And I do have that information now, and that's been put in. Let me think, because there are no raises in here.
There's
I think it's it's the clerical position, I believe, is the difference. If we take a break, I'll go back and look because there is no difference in there.
It's
It's been a
$2,200.
while since I've looked at this one, because this one was, fairly easy one to do. So I know there's a reason for it, just right off the top of my head, I don't remember.
It's only like $2,200 difference, but
Yeah, there was a reasoning for it, and I'm sorry, off the top of my head, I don't remember, because it's been a minute since I've looked at this one.
I thought it was where we had shifted those.
Oh, I know what it is. There was one employee that took the CCFO class and completed that. And so that would be the difference, because it is $2,200 is the difference. They told you.
My bookkeeper.
Yeah, I knew there was a reason, I just couldn't remember off the top of my head what it was, so.
Yeah,
When you said $2,200, that's what Keith thinks. Yeah, that was something, well, prior to my time, but if an employee takes that class, they automatically get that increase because of that
And
certification.
it's a very extensive class. I mean, it takes a while
Yeah, because I'm doing it right now.
to, it's not an easy peasy thing.
It's not.
Matter of fact, I think there's been a couple who've started it and backed out.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, according to what they told me in council, I think one person from the county has completed it, which is probably less. That's it.
anyone have any questions for Mr. Lewis?
That's less than 5%.
I will say that, as you can tell, I mean, some things went up very little, some things went down very little. So, my budget's pretty straightforward. It's not too hard. Mostly everything that went up is just for inflation postage. I mean, mainly is postage. I mean, that's pretty much my whole deal here. That's what contracts with government agencies is. That big number over there, that's mail outs.
It's a 0.08% difference.
0.08.
Percentage changes takes a lot more to calculate, but this is just the difference between the two.
Between the two. What the road is. That way it gives you some kind of following the metrics on all last reporting. Mr. Lewis, one thing, and it's just for my knowledge, because I don't have a clue.
Yeah.
In line 506. It's the liability insurance premiums and corporate surety. What in the world is that?
Can you enlighten us, Miss Carolyn?
The way it was budgeted from the prior year, we just left it in there. We didn't change it because we hadn't received the insurance bill. When we received the insurance bill and we looked at what should be charged to the departments, it was way off. So we've gone in now and adjusted it to what it actually should have been. So countywide, it was in total the same. It just wasn't split correctly between the departments. We didn't go in and change it last year when we were doing the budget. We just kind of left them the way they were because, in all honesty, that's all we knew at that point in time. So then when we got the actual bill and looked at it as to what it should be specifically for the departments, it was a little shocking that it wasn't. I don't know I can't even figure out what the methodology was, I'll be honest with you, as to how it was divided. So we went in and looked at what it should be by department based on what the insurance company tells us So we just went in and changed them all.
And so some of them are gonna go down while some are going up.
Yeah,
Smaller
especially
estimate.
ones, sorry, go ahead.
The elected officials are automatically $3,200. That was never taken into account. And last year it was not even covering that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks, Mr. Lewis. Anyone have anything before I call for the registered deeds?
Carolyn, you probably will.
Set to 0. All right, let's move on.
Chad's budget is by deputies, it's up 10.44%.
That was at $2,200.
The trustee, yes, in the trustees' budget, registered deeds too.
But their total didn't change from the 22-23 and the 23-24, but it shows to be in the public at 10%, 10.4%.
I think a sell value got on those two, because the values are the same.
Value's the same, but
Yeah.
the total,
The totals are the same.
is it the same?
Oh, and the
No, it's not the
difference is
same.
the same.
Now, one's 10.18, the other one's 10.44.
Oh, I just looked at the 10%. All right, let me check that percentage sale
I
value.
think it's just a sell value. I think it's just looking at the wrong two cells. I think it's looking at amended from 21, 22.
That would
That's
make more
about-
sense. That's what I wondered if that's what that was.
I'll take your vote.
Okay, I'll go back and recheck all those formulas. Maybe something got
That
added.
would be like, what, $6,000 right at?
Well, if it did 10% on this one, it would be $9,000 difference. That's what that should really come up with.
It's not.
And it's not, this one was only like a $2,000 difference, but it said it was 10% difference out of 114, which is still out of line. So I think there's just a value that's skewed. in
Yeah,
there
because I went in
somewhere.
and checked the actual numbers, but I will be honest, I didn't go in and check all the percentage formulas because I didn't change technically, so.
Some of the other ones look. Oh. Now, there's one on here that went from 165 to 289, and it says it's a negative 24.47 difference.
I'll go in and recheck all of them and just make sure. Because I think I hid those last year
Uh-huh.
just because they seemed to be confusing to people, so I hid them all last year. So I'll go back in and recheck all of them. Well, people thought they were confusing, the percentages were confusing, so I took them out. So I put them back in this year just in case somebody wanted to see them.
We ready to hit the registered deeds, Mr. Him real good.
Fire it up, man, fire it up. You fire the first shot.
First main question, on your bonus line, 188, one's in, which is 0. Just recommended for a thought line, is any of your clerks, deputy clerks scheduled for to attend a required certified class or anything in their job duties because?
No.
That'd be good.
We have, the bookkeeper could take what Chad's bookkeeper took, but she's not showing any interest, so I'm not pushed it, so. No, really, there's nothing they can get certified in.
Big will be a killer because it's in the deficit. Only request for life insurance, so that means somebody's gonna get done in before you. Insurance is taking the bag this year. Dennis getting, because of the now, we're gonna take right.
Well, I mean, this one is an example of see how his are split. So his should, on his insurance, those should even out pretty close. I mean, they may be off a little bit, but if you've got one that's all in one column, that's where you run into a problem.
Back to the unemployment compensation. Is that something that's going to change year to year? Year in the budget process or following the budget process? 'Cause I mean, there is so many variances in all of them.
Possibly. I need to be able to see the billing. Like right now, we're going through the renewal process for the insurance. And workers' comp is one of those, it depends on lots of different factors. So I've put in like a minimal factor. We're not paying out in most departments anywhere close to that. And I'm about afraid to minimize it too much.
It just seems to be an astronomical.
And some departments it is, because we're not paying it. I mean, we're paying pennies on the dollar compared to what? But I put the same percentage in there for all departments instead of going in and trying to figure out what department is charged. What, and I actually split it out by departments. That one's tough. I will admit it's tough. I considered going in and putting it in just what was the actual payout from the prior year, but I was afraid to do that. Yeah, so I was afraid to do that.
Are you cutting your own throat on the office supplies because you dropped it down and you were in the negative at the end of the last year?
I shouldn't have been, not in office supplies, I shouldn't have been. I've given back around 3,000 to 4,000 every year on office supplies.
Which shows the unencumbered balance as of 6/30/22 was 1329.14 in the negative.
We had some,
The only thing I can think of is we took that for data processing and moved it around because we were in a housing boom and each document recorded as a it's $1.50. We pay business information systems. I bet that's what we did.
I'm pretty sure.
We weren't prepared for the housing boom. I don't think anyone was. And so our document recordation went up big time. So you are correct. It wasn't a negative, but on a normal year, it never is. So that's more than plenty enough money for me. I moved some to data processing supplies and to travel. I've got to travel a little more. I'm the president of the East Tennessee Registrars Association, so I'm over 33 or 34 counties. So I travel more with that. I haven't traveled in the past much. So, and then the data processing supplies really is like toner and paper, stuff like that. So I just took from that and added to the other ones. So, because like I said, any other year we'd be to the good. So. And one other thing on here, for communication, that's probably going to go to a zero, probably by May. So we're paying for internet. And Anthony came down the other day and he's like, "Why are you paying for internet?" I was like, "Always have." So they ran a cable the other day to my office to his. He's got to get it set up. So I'll do away with charter internet. So that'll take $1,200 off the table. I haven't even got to tell Carolyn that. We just found all this out. So.
Okay. So do you want me to take that out or you want me to?
Let's wait till Anthony gets it set up, make sure. But I would say May at the latest, hopefully by the mid to end of April. So.
Anybody else?
Looking at the numbers, you'd be in this from last year.
About 3,200. Dropped about 3,200, I think.
And then if we take that to 1,200 out, then it'll go. There are a couple that will be that way. And there's some that- Anyway.
You gotta have fun while it lasts.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Willie would be proud of it, so. Willie would be proud of it. Steve in the morning.
They did a good job. They worked hard on these.
Anybody have anything before we move on to the lines? All right, Director, come on up.
You did the podium for skinny people.
I didn't set that up.
I think Ms. Curlin has sent y'all out my budget. My landfill board did approve our budget going forward without any pay raises. So if you got any questions, happy to answer.
Benny over the line, 169,011 part-time personnel. Well, I'll come back here so I can hear, sir. You've got an increase request for part-time. Is that adding another part-time?
No, sir. No, sir. That's the one we had.
The 22 and what you had.
On the payroll side of it is a little confusing. And so what I did, there have been people kind of moved around and moved from full-time, part-time, part-time to full-time. So what I did at the bottom of that payroll sheet is I went in and I did a comparison based on the account numbers they're being paid out of and basically those titles to show you what it was in the current year budget for this year and what is in the proposed budget. That's the only way I can figure out how to do it.
And Carolyn and myself actually sat down earlier and made sure where everybody's pay comes out of.
So I just did it by,
So is that why there's nothing showing on the unemployment and the Medicare and stuff for the Round Mountain Melt Bills? Is it because it's all back?
yeah,
It's just not broke down here, but it's back here. That's okay. I just want to make sure. That's what I thought it looked like.
We have had some increases this year, but everything around us has went up. You go buy parts, they're up. You go take your trash off the bundle, it's went up. They've added I think Sullivan County added a royalty fee onto them over there that they get every month. They've handed that down to us 2 months ago. I mean, it's just some of the stuff that's went up around us.
I didn't hear your explanation, Big Brad. 169-011, the Elton Mills call, 22,984.
I'll let Miss Carolyn explain that. We had to figure out where everybody was getting paid from. Some of them was getting paid from transfer or we
recycle, and they may have been a transfer, so we shifted those people around where we got.
There is also in that 169 line, there's a vacant position in that currently. So if you go in and you look at the part-time, especially if you go in and look, it's easy to see at that top line. You can see there was a full-time and a part-time. That part-time person was moved to full-time, so the part-time line turned to zero. If you go down to recycle, based on what's in here right now, it appears there's an additional person that they're replacing with part-time. So that one of the part-time people went full-time, so they're replacing the part-time position. That's what the vacant position. And that also is the same, if you go down into landfill, is kind of the same way. So that's just what's in there, because he knows what he needs. I don't know. That's just the way that it is being requested. This is what we sat down and you told me what positions you needed. So all I could go in and do is put them in there to show you where they currently are and show you the number. Like, for example, in last year's budget for truck drivers, there were 5. Now there are 6. I know some people have moved around positions within that, but all I can do is go by and tell you what the totals are. So you'll see what the differences are between last year and this year.
On the payroll sheet, you have a convenience center total. All mountain, and you've got, are they part-time?
Little Milligan is, Rome Mountain is full-time, sir.
All mountains full-time. So you've got 2, I don't understand those 2 lines, first 2 lines on the payroll sheet.
On the payroll sheet,
Yeah, convenience center totals, 2 laborers, 1 Rome Mountain, 1 Little Milligan. Are they both full-time?
yes. According to this, yes. I pulled it by people's names. I pulled the names out, but I pulled it by the actual account numbers that are in payroll, because I don't know exactly what they do. All I can do is pull it by the way they pull into the payroll system.
Little Milligan is definitely part-time.
Yeah, he's only there 2 days a week.
Yeah, well, it's not showing part-time in Skyward.
So if he's.
It came out of Skyward.
If he's part-time, Little Milligan, we're paying benefits.
No, sir.
And it could be that it's not in there correct. See, I don't know who these people are, so I don't know if they're in the right categories or not. I can just pull them by which I took the names out.
Well, you wouldn't be paying benefits for part-time.
What?
You wouldn't be paying benefits
No,
for
but
part-time.
it's showing on this, it shows on this sheet as benefits.
I mean, because it be one of
Little
the
Milligan.
people that are recycler actually who's at Little Milligan.
On payroll sheet, first 2
No,
lines.
Little Milligan, they've always, them and Rome Mountain's always been categorized together.
Is he one of the ones that changed to full-time?
He's been part-time since he's been with me.
Okay, well, we need to look at that then and see, somebody must be reclassified then.
He shouldn't be getting, if he's part-time, he shouldn't be having no benefits on that line.
Yeah, the person in that line item is full-time, because it will, when I go in and pull this in, see how the other ones, at their, when you look at their job description, that's how it pulls out of Skyward. It says part-time. I don't go in and change that. All I did was take the names out of it, so.
I see.
So it looks like somebody's misclassified.
If it is indeed part-time, then the salary's probably wrong, and
Well, no, this is what that person's being paid. This came straight out of the payroll system.
I understand that. I'm just trying to point out, Little Milligan is a part-time position, and if it is so, there should be no benefits in that line.
It's always been a part-time position.
It probably, the wrong person is under that line item, so that will need to be corrected.
On the second page, under electricity for Oatmeal Throw Mountain, and then just regular electricity, it's showing 0.
You see the
Are
second
you not
page?
budgeting anything for the electricity there, or? It's on 415 to dash 011 and 415 dash 013.
On mine, I've got $2,000.
It's got it up there under just plain electricity on 415, but then it's got the 2. So is that all 3 of them together?
I think so, yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, that's what I was looking. So does that mean water and sewer are the same classification under utilities?
Yes.
So it'll be all 3 under that one? But they're different line items, so.
Sam Mills, we don't got no electricity. I'm pretty sure electricity all falls under the landfill.
Well, and then one is for the water and the sewer is 454 and then 454-013. I guess you budgeted 500 for that. Will that be enough for both places?
Theirs usually runs $30 a month or so. It's
So
not,
that would probably be.
it's not a whole lot.
After we get done, will you give me the name of the part-time person that's supposed to be Lil Milligan so I can research?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking it's just, they may be in recycle, they may just be charged to the wrong place.
In line, it's, pages are numbered, third page, part-time personnel, 55751, 169. Part-time personnel, it went up 2,000. Are you adding another part-time person or?
Actually, that may have got put in there prior to taking the raises out.
Yeah, there is an extra part-time person in there.
Okay.
And what was in there from the prior year. That's what, so you see the difference? That's one of the 3. That is the difference.
Got a clue?
It's that, and there's a vacant truck driver position, or those are 2 of the 3. They're different.
And there's a problem. We're setting 3 personnel more than we were last year. If you look at the revenue that is generated from recycling versus this year, I got more people, and I get less money. What's the wrong with that?
Guys, I don't think those extra personnel are supposed to be in there, and that may have been left in this budget from where the pay raises put in there.
I think some of it is where, when we converted those, at least those 2 part-times over, I think the 2 part-time positions stayed open and they should have been closed because they were converted to full-time.
You told me to put them back, so I put them back.
No, I've got a couple of part-times that needs to be there, but the ones that converted to full-time, then those 2 positions will leave because they're full-time, and I'll have my other part-timers there.
2 part-time, that makes that need to be extracted completely out of this.
Yeah.
So which ones you want taken out?
One at recycle, one at landfill.
Okay. Okay, so take out. take out one of the part-time at,
Yeah, there's one vacant.
at landfill. There's one that is currently vacant, yes, at landfill. I don't remember which one it is, but. Gets that top one. What about, there's 2 vacancies for truck driver. Do both of those need to be there? Because it looks like right now there's 6 truck drivers.
There only needs to be, we've got one vacant right now. Everything else is full. We do have one vacant position.
Okay, so take that out.
Benny, is that a class B or a class A?
Sir, I like to have everybody class A's. Reason being,
Class B because we're not long haul. Because the only thing that knocks that is they don't have to meet the physical demand.
if you pull a trailer, that's a gooseneck or a fifth wheel, it has to be an A.
No, I'll correct that.
I-
State law says you can be
I can
an
assure you
as
it
long, it's down to the mileage.
As long as you pull under 26,000, you can have a 57.
6,000, I'm saying. there's
We
one.
pull 80,000 pounds. When we leave out of the landfill, we're grossing
Well, then,
80.
why is the city advertising their positions for their truck drivers, class B?
They don't run tractor and trailer. We run tractor and trailers.
Isn't anything less than 26,000 with no air brakes?
Excuse me,
I said, isn't it less than 26,000 with no air brakes?
26,000 less it's B. Now you can hook a regular trailer to the hitch and you can get by without an A.
Right, so if we take those 3 positions out, that reduces across all 3 of the departments, basically 77,000 and some change.
Did you say 3 positions or 2 positions at one time?
Well, it's
2 part-times and 1 truck driver.
it's just, there's 3 positions that he's saying to take out of what I've already done.
Plus the part-time.
I think that person's probably classified wrong. So we don't make those changes, those come from the department, so we just go with whatever they tell us, because we don't know who's where. So
I
I'm
was
thinking,
hoping is us to be paying benefits or having to put it in this budget. First, they're not getting it, and then, I mean, that's money sitting there that.
yeah, well, this comes straight out of payroll, so I'm thinking there's somebody, either one of the people at recycle or one of the people at landfill that's part-time, who actually who should be up there. And that person should be down in one of the other categories. Now, I
Okay,
don't know,
I understand. That's kind of what I was thinking, but I wasn't sure.
because these are actual, except for the ones that say vacant, they're actual people that's already in there. I just took the names out of it.
And I wanted to say, Mr. Kent can't be here, so I'm vice chairperson. On the revenue, cardboard is down, what, in half on
It's
the.
$55 a ton right now. It was 195,
One's what, 25 or 30?
195.
Okay, there you
Yes,
go.
ma'am, so it's down.
So that's one reason why our revenue side has hurt us too. I mean,
But
Still have to have-
See, it was that high. And that was that. And now we're down enough. Our cost to transport now and to sell, is that more than what we can get? If we took a look in there, I know the price is down, but still, our cost to transport and to sell, is it?
We don't transport it. They come and get it, sir.
Okay, so then let's go to the opposite end then. Is it for us to handle it and so forth, the cost of bailing it and all, is that still lower than what the price they're paying for?
I'll say that again.
Are we actually making money at $55 a ton?
Let me explain something to you on this.
Because I think the breakdown, before you go into it, the break-even point whenever we bought the baler was around $40 a ton. So anything above $40 a ton was still okay.
Not only that, you're keeping when we send a truckload out every week, we send out 40,000 pounds. That's 40,000 pounds of cardboard that we're not having to pay Bluff City Bluntville to take from us. So, you know, you may think you're not making a lot of money, but yet you're not having to pay to get rid of that stuff. Somebody's paying us to take it.
Well, it matter of that, I was aware of that. What I'm saying is, we're stockpiling cardboard. We were stockpiling.
No, we're selling it, it goes out every week down there.
Okay.
We don't have the room to stockpile much.
To store cardboard.
No, sir, we've got the warehouse we built, which we're storing plastic, cardboard, paper, Eastman's plastic, so
Smart screens.
do what?
Smart boards. Yeah, mark boards. They're gone, ain't they?
I think they are gone. They came and got them. Yeah, but that takes up very minimal space behind the baler. And I did that for the school system because we're all county and there's no reason we shouldn't be able to help another department.
Because their warehouse down here where they were storing most of that stuff out was completely full whenever I was down there.
It is. And there's no reason that one department can't help another department.
Because they use the old,
Come and bite you in the rear end, then you will retract your statement. That's like the pump.
I believe in helping, but that's the wrong place to have
These are Augusta.
that much money stacked.
On the back of the line.
That wasn't up to me. They come and asked me if we could store it. It's dry. I said, yes, sir.
That was,
were they used ones or were they new
Well,
ones?
it was brand new. They came straight in on the truck and as they was taking some out, they would replace them. So they wanted somewhere to store them where they was dry and secure. And we dry and secure because we have cameras. So that's the reason they was stored there.
so on the cardboard, if we increase our intake of our recyclables, cardboard, plastics, whatever, so we're gonna need to turn that out. So no matter if it's $55 or, hopefully
It's actually starting to go back up from what they told me. I talked to several of them. You know, Kyle's asking for it and they're saying that the trend is starting to go back up. So
our revenue gap, we're gonna have to move that stuff. We're gonna have to keep it rolling. We're gonna have to get more in and take more out. So to close this deficit we got.
It's a volume game is what it is, because if the volume stays steady, even at $40 a ton, they would make their payment annually on the baler, on the interfund loan. But it's just a volume thing. If they don't have enough cardboard coming in, they can't hit the volume even at 55, even though that saves, that's 30% less volume you gotta have at 55. There's not enough cardboard coming in.
But our volume should increase with the 24-hour recycling.
Yeah.
And the school is stepping their game up.
That's paper, so the school one's gonna be a big deal. It's just a matter of being able to continue to move it. It's just a
and the
matter of-
paper, if you can keep the paper clean,
Where you're not gonna get that payment.
You remember about 9 months ago, that was, it was stated, during budget that Eastman had made arrangements for transport to give or whatever, to barter in the plastics. What happened to that?
we're still doing it. We're still doing
all that
plastic.
motion, but why if we've got all that going and we're moving it, why are we not, our revenue in the bottom?
Mr. Johnson, the market has went from here to here for what they're paying for it. We're still doing the same volume. They're just not paying you as much.
Yeah, just to clarify too on the revenue budget, so, because I don't have any information as far as how much we're selling or what it is per anything. All I did was I took where we were at the halfway mark for the year, actuals, and I doubled it to be where we are. So that put us in that particular category at about 50%. If you look and see what the year-to-date was for the last trustees report, which would have been from last month, because we're still working on the one for this month, we were at 29%. So if you think of it in those terms, this is actually still a little aggressive. If we were only at 29% of collections from last year's budget. But I just took the raw numbers from where we were, so it looked like it had increased from the last 2 months slightly. So that's why I went ahead and put it in at 50%. But I don't know all those variables, so the only thing I could do was take what I knew historically and then just double it. I can tell you, last year, we were the opposite place because prices were different, volume was different last year when we did this.
I don't project that volume has really changed. The cardboard's still coming in the same way it was, and so is the rest of the materials. But when they're paying you $195 and then they drop it to $50, and you're giving them the same amount of material, you ain't gonna win there.
You calculated the $40 or 40 break even. Were personnel costs factored into that, or was it just the loan itself?
Employee and everything.
Yeah.
Total cost. System set up. Has there been anything coming to setting up accountability for receipts, deposits, everything to where we can start smacking the teeth with audit? Do you see anything that's gonna be a cost increase to be able to do that?
Be manpower in my department because I've been charged to do it, so. It's about 70 invoices a month that we have to go through, and then I don't know, I talked to Lisa a little bit about the cash receipt side of it. I haven't, yeah, she and I are gonna meet about that later this week. Did you get my email or no about those invoices?
Yes, ma'am, I sent you one back. As far as Elk Mills goes, them bringing their tickets down, I know the audit requires it. You guys make $10 an hour and they live 27 miles away and they have to drive down here and bring those tickets. What do we want to do about that? If you want them every other day.
Well, it's not, they gotta get the tickets down here with the money. They don't make that much money per hour. All job I've ever had, they paid me mileage to drive my vehicle.
Or do you have somebody from down here that can actually take off and go get them?
And we do good to keep people moving trucks here. I swear we do.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, now that part of the project, we've not even talked about that yet, a little bit of that.
But we don't want more than one. But we don't want more than one.
much did you say it would be from Elk Mills or Road Mountain for them to bring tickets down 26 miles?
25 miles, I think, from their place to here. The landfill.
From going out here,
No, from Elk Mills, Little Milligan. Road Mountain deposits theirs at Carter County Bank.
They've got a branch bank up there. They can just deposit those on.
Yeah, so it's a Road Mountain deposits theirs.
Is there any possibility of doing that in, I know Elk Mills, but it's closer to,
Well, I guess the closest
Farmers
bank
State,
is
I think.
Citizens Bank in Hampton, I think.
well, if you went into Johnson
Well,
County.
yeah, there
State.
was one acre.
Yeah,
Farmers
right.
State.
You can build it at Farmers State.
That might be an option.
Just open up an account there.
4 miles.
How would the county do that, being, I think we deal with Carter County, how would that work?
Is it a different bank? I couldn't hear that.
Farmer.
Doesn't matter what county it's in.
I don't know. I've got a meeting with Paula this week. I can ask her.
That'd be one way to solve that one.
Well, at the end of the day, they're not gonna have to drive that far.
When he closes, he works 8 to 4 up there, so on Wednesdays, by the time he gets to the bank, it's gonna be closed. He's gonna have to take it on his day off.
That's what, 10 minutes away?
No, he lives up near me. That's another 7 or 8 miles up there.
Okay.
I mean, and these people hourly rate, they're not like me. You guys call me at all hours of the night and don't think twice about it. But these folks, they get paid 8 to 4. You know, his day to work is on Wednesday up there.
You said for Elk Mills.
This man, Little Milligan.
Oh, okay. That's why I was confused.
It was Elk Mills forever, and then we moved it and changed it to Little Milligan.
Okay, so it's Little Milligan.
Yes, ma'am.
That's actually fairly close. That's actually fairly close to Farmers Day. If we're going to do that.
We can get in there, it'll be all right.
so we're going with new software and
We're using the same software. I think Anthony finally came by and got a PO the other day to do the backup to the cloud. He messaged me that day and said he had one.
Yeah, there is a PO out there now. I talked to him today. And I approved it for the cloud backup. So they weren't backing up.
But I mean, I know it's why I mentioned before we go and toward, you also, in the question, if we get done with financial management in the plan that's going to be executed to eliminate the deficiencies that was in the audit, you know, what they're going to wind up with. It's what it's going to be prescribed to them, and if they can't do it, then they'll find somebody. Because there's not going to be this again. You did it twice. You might want to do a Burger King.
Mr. Johnson, I'm not gonna stand here and argue with you about my department. We're mandated by the state for recycling. We're mandated to run the landfill. We're also mandated for convenience centers. If you don't want to fund it, I don't care. I'm not gonna argue with you about it. My health ain't here to argue with you about that.
or you've misunderstood something.
Okay, it's not here for you to down me all the time, every time I come in here.
Excuse me, what have I downed you?
During my landfill meeting, you said over there, not. Like I didn't have enough sense to run my own department.
Are we in the,
I know my department better than anybody in here.
are we in the landfill meeting?
You know, we're in the budget committee, but you come to my landfill committee meeting and intervene.
I can go to any committee meeting in this county.
But don't belittle me when I try to talk about my department.
I have never directed a
Because you, for one, has never come and toured my department with me as long as you've been here, so you don't know nothing about my
All
department.
right, gentlemen. Bring it down a notch.
Do you think that we should, sure, run this back through finance so they can get the employee count and numbers of it straightened up?
Yeah, we need the employee counts need to be straightened out because that's a significant chunk of change.
77,000-ish.
Ish.
Sitting here and did the math on that.
And if we quote unquote don't look at the interfund loan, the 167,333, is that what that's for?
Yes.
That's and if we don't look at that, it's still out around about 87,573 ish.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, if I'm projecting revenue, I am not comfortable increasing recycle more than it is right now based on current collections. We can see what the trustees report is for this month. I do think there is some room to possibly increase a little bit in the collections from the transfer station. Which, I mean, if you, that's up a little bit, but that would be your call because it's your budget. Just from an analytical standpoint, just looking at it, and that one seems like it's going well and you're really up in collections on that. But as far as recycle, I mean, unless you know something or you know it's coming back up, I wouldn't be comfortable increasing it.
Recycle, I wouldn't trust until you never know what it's gonna do, but we've got to fund it.
Yeah. Well, the funding isn't the question. Making sure the numbers are right on the front end and the receivables are right on the back end. Those are the two things that we've got to make sure are correct because ultimately, whenever we made the decision to do the baler, it had to be done because the other baler was basically dead.
It really was.
Or was in the process of dying. It was in its death throes. So either way, the thought process was to decrease the hit on the unassigned fund balance was to do it as an interfund and do it as an interfund loan. So when you do an interfund loan, you already understand that you probably may end up having to pay it back from a different source in a different way.
Yeah, these are based on cash receipts. These have nothing to do with the receivable project. That's a whole different project will be started this week. So I don't have any idea what that number is, and I'm not gonna try to project it until I get it.
I don't expect you to try to project it at the moment.
Yeah. So this is based truly on cash receipts from what it has been for this fiscal year, not last year. So that's all I had to go by.
Yeah, and on the interfund loan, basically, we loaned the money to, it's like one business loaning or one umbrella corporation loaning money to one of its subsidiary businesses. So we loaned them the $502,000 to buy the baler, and so the annual payment's $167,333. So it's all the same money technically, but.
Yeah, so if the county had to fund the shortage, then they're borrowing it basically from themselves.
Exactly.
My question was, which I haven't gotten answered yet, is can we extend it? So for example, if the landfill doesn't show in this budget they have enough money to pay that amount, can we extend it out? Can we not put that payment in there for this year in this budget and extend it out an extra year? I don't have the answer to that question yet.
You'd have to go through a resolution.
Yeah, we'd have to change the resolution because of the way that it's set up.
Yeah.
So, but.
That's what I assumed, but I asked it to one person in a different organization and they said, yes, you could, but I wanted to confirm that, which I have a meeting with the comptroller's office on Wednesday. So
Yeah.
I was going to discuss that with them at that point.
Yeah, it would just have to switch, but what is the receivables that were coming in from the cardboard at the time would have been coming into the trustee's office. They wouldn't have been going into their coffers or their unassigned fund balance at that rate. Do we know what the receivables were on the cardboard that had come in that basically went into our unassigned fund balance? Because that's where,
Mine are unassigned.
well, they would have been receivables that were coming back into us. Where were those funds going whenever they were coming back in?
Mr. Frazier, I think those are assigned to a line item that goes through the trustee's office down here as they come in. They should
Yeah, I
be
mean,
assigned to.
Their revenue goes in under their.
Goes in under their lines.
Yeah,
Okay,
it basically goes in through their fund.
okay,
Even though it all comes into the trustee's office, it's designated to their fund, to their account numbers.
okay.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Okay.
I was having to think through.
The balance on that currently for that account, is it up or down or sideways?
So
or-
recycled materials is currently at about 29% of budgeted revenue.
Okay,
So that tells me that, I mean, it goes up and down, it fluctuates every month. So what I did is I took December, where it was in December, halfway mark, and doubled it instead of going in and trying to do an average per month. I can do that and see if it changes any, but based on where it currently sits, it's gonna make it worse, not better. If I do that.
okay,
So I just took it at the halfway mark and doubled it because in hopes that we would get more in and possibly maybe the prices would go up.
okay. Are any of those guys that are picking up, have they not paid?
No, they pay pretty regular within 30 days out.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. And how many loads were you doing last fiscal year versus this fiscal year?
We do a load of cardboard every week. A load goes out every week. Now, sometimes you'll get that load out and you'll have 3 or 4 extra. They'll build up. And then maybe one week we'll have 2 loads go out. So it's 1 load a week guaranteed. And then as we get the extra, then we'll make a load out with that.
So you're not stockpiling, waiting on the price to go up?
Oh, ma'am. The only thing I am stockpiling is my cores.
Or what?
The cores is the cardboard tubes, and the price is 0. So I'm not going to spend money on wire and then give it to them.
Director, demolition site,
Yes, sir.
are we in your max?
Mr. Johnson,
What we're looking at is through to your committee, somebody's gonna have to work on it because the demolition site is a large revenue.
it's very large. And, I've had them surveying it. We're down to surveying it every 6 months now because, the state's only going to allow us to go so high with it. And, I've been saying for 10 years it's going to close at 7. Well, we're at the point now we're using small areas to get us to where we need to be. But it's going to sneak up on us because we've had Kim Ray come up 2 or 3 times in our committee. She's talked about what we need to do.
But on this, in this budget here, is any of those things like for a demolition site, is anything in here to where if we have to go in and do core drilling and all to qualify?
No, sir.
If we find some,
We tried to buy the property beside of us. There's a couple, 3 or 4 different parcels. We went and talked to them. I think the previous mayor went and talked to them, maybe the lawyer. They don't want to sell. And if we was to start a new landfill, per se a demolition landfill, our rates are not going to do anything except for increase at the Bluntville landfill for our household garbage. So if you're going to build a landfill, I'd build one where I take my own trash. The county's trash. You see what I'm saying? The household trash. Where you can take it and demo together.
Like it used to be.
Exactly, because it's going to eventually get to the point where we're going to be raising our rates every year because they're raising what they're doing over in Bluntville. They've got a monopoly on it now. There's one company that owns every landfill around here now. So they can price it the way they want to.
And depending on where you get land at, it'll probably be anywhere from $6 to $16 million.
And you want something that's gonna span out 30, 35 years at least if you go to develop this thing. You wanna be able to use it for that long in order to get your money back.
There was some, you can correct me. There was, I'm gonna say less than a year ago, the conversation, well, it's prior to election, the conversation, because we know that the transfer station can fall on you at any day. It was designed for a 69-ton day usage, and we're over 100 tons per day now. And the metals have gone, the system, the concrete slabs where it's scraped, it needs to be totally replaced.
And that was brought up.
Any of that, is anything in here whatsoever?
That was brought up during several of our landfill committee meetings, but it's fell off to the wayside.
Because at the time then, when the estimate came in, it was somewhere around about 4.7 million to put a new transfer station. And estimate just for a demolition site, if one can be found. You know, that's probably the thing is, they're on threads and needles as far as operations are concerned.
And as far as from what Ms. Camarita and folks that I've talked to, they're saying, 5 million before you ever get to put the first piece of trash in the ground.
Yeah. That's why I said anywhere from $6 to $16 million. That's just for the property. Plus you have to do all and then if something happens after you've already bought the property, you now have a very expensive something.
That's exactly right.
So you can do all the testing up front to make sure that it's clear, but I think one of the places they looked at was the old quarry over in Watauga. I think that was one of the places that got talked about at one point.
Which one are you talking about? And I know there's been a place talked about on Cripple Creek Road, but the thing about that is they've already been dumping in there. So if we go take that, we're responsible for what's there.
I mean, we're gonna have to do something pretty quick, because I'm telling you, it's gonna catch us right macking up.
And guys, the state, when we're down a driver, that trash will come out. I guess all of it's been up, the way you go by the transfer station, it sits here and the demo road goes this way. It'll be all the way out to the demo room, stacked up. If we're down a driver, it'll be, I'm gonna be able to see what it looks like this evening. Okay.
We don't transfer though, we don't have that problem.
That's exactly right. If you don't transfer,
We don't have a transfer station to build, we don't have trucks to maintain, we don't have to have all these drivers.
That's the truth.
And your revenue is gonna climb because you're charging your own fees.
Yeah. The average for these landfills around here, actual landfills, they can bury their stuff for about $17 a ton. $11 to $17 a ton is what they can bury their stuff for. So they charge us, I think we're at 25 a ton right now. And it's climbing, it'll climb every year, and we don't got this comfort zone but about 3 more years because our contract will be up.
And that's the problem, because you've got, just in the county alone, workforce development. That's gonna be demolition. Now.
Yeah, that's.
Just think, that's gonna go. Secondly, let's go down here on West Elk Avenue, the old giant supermarket, that whole block there, demolition.
And it'll come to us. All those buildings they just tore down on Elk Avenue came to us.
You might be closer.
And that all depends on, what you take in a year's time. If you take a bunch of, demolition jobs where they tear complete big factory buildings down, that adds to your.
But your demolition site brings more money in than anything.
Oh, yeah.
That is your money maker.
It keeps you out of the real.
That is your absolute money maker.
Yes, we're not to make a profit, but we'd like to break even.
It's 9 to 1.
Where's the buying land?
Yeah.
Sure, they probably had the same problem when they started this one.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's something you gotta dig into and see.
Call Jack Buckles, see if he wants to sell his over there.
I mean, it's,
Don't we have any extra
I
land?
mean, there's just too much money there that we're transporting, paying somebody else to take it.
And it's also a NIMBY thing, not in my backyard.
That's exactly right. When you go to do one of these, it'll be all out war because they don't want it in their backyard. Everybody wants to get rid of their trash, but they don't want you to put it in their backyard or their neighborhood.
That's one of the things in the budget that they should, I would recommend there be a line item of a small manner in case there is during this fiscal year, everybody is knowledgeable that it's going to come up. That we have funds available, we have to go in and start doing testing for certification of the loan. So yeah, this is usable because I know EPA will have certain requirements we have to do. The use for that. So it's either that or we take the risk of handling 2 months of fund balance, whichever you think is the best. While he's having to, I'm gonna say redo this because of the employment. And if that number's right on the last page, is that correct? 331.
331,906. That's the deficit that they're operating in right now. And so there's the 77,000 for the three positions. And then the 167,333 is in that as well. So.
Couple questions, just give me up
You don't
to.
have to put that in there.
Yeah, I know you do. But we have to fund the general operations of it. So that's part of funding the general operations of it, so.
Guys on y'all's travels, if you want to start looking for land, you're probably looking at least 65, 70 acres in order to be able to carry you through. Because I'm telling you, I'll retire in 2 years. I'm done. You're going to have to find something that's going to carry you on out.
Go ahead, Cody.
So the compactors what the loan was for, what is the lifespan on, and then maybe a better question for you, how long do those pieces of equipment last?
The loader that we just replaced, I got it in '09. We put an undercarriage on. I mean, we Band-Aided to get it where we're at now. But we bought it in '09, I think it was delivered 10. So we've got 13 years out of it.
What type of loan was it that you said again? I know
We're talking about the baler.
Now the baler will last a little longer than the equipment that's out in the garbage because it's a little different environment. It's indoors.
You had the baler and you had 2 trucks, 3 trucks, 4 trucks that we financed also.
I think so. Well, no, the baler itself was 470,000 plus installation. It was 500.
2 trucks. Just 2 trucks.
Yeah, and I'm fairly certain they paid for one of them out of their fund balance. Is that correct? Or both of them, or were both of them out of their fund balance?
I don't think both.
One of them we did the loan for, was part of the loan.
Yeah.
The baler, the actual baler, I think the county bought it with some of the COVID funds, I'm not sure.
No, that was what we did the intercompany, or the interfund
Yeah, so
loan.
that's
The inter-fund balance was for the front load recycle truck and the new Mack tractor trailer, just the tractor only.
I guess kind of what I'm getting at is it a type of loan that could, I know government works different, is it something that could be refinanced at a longer term to create less of a burden on the department as it sits now?
Yeah, all we would have to do is just do a new resolution. Because we're in an agreement with ourselves.
So if it
We took the money from our left hand and went, here you go.
Right, that's what I'm getting at. If it was a piece of equipment that's gonna last, say, 10, 15 years, basically, it sounds like you financed it for 3 years. 4 years, something like that.
Yeah, it was 4.
Could you extend it out?
3. Yeah, 3.
And that's something else. We didn't have that payment in there last year.
Yeah.
Payments for 3 years.
Then
It's occurred this
push it
year.
out 5 years, lower that burden, just to create a gap to allow them to catch up.
I mean, you could do that, but all you would be doing is making the numbers look different on the books, not in the actual totals. Does that make sense? Because we literally loaned money from our left hand to our right hand. And if we refinance it, it just makes it look different on the books on an annual basis rather than actually making any difference in the actual totals that are out there.
The totality of the county budget, but it would lessen the burden annually on the landfill.
It ties up the fund balance for the county. Basically is what it's doing. It's tied up the fund balance for the county. So every time they make a payment, that's more available funds in the fund balance for the county, because the county basically loans the money.
Right. And just trying
Into
to
another
flow some
fund.
ideas to see if there
You know,
pressing needs.
What?
take a stupid break.
Mr. Johnson has requested a break and I will acquiesce. We'll be back in 12.
I said all those.
We got a pretty decent sized hole in the back. It's not
Go, the mic's completely
send me something.
All right, we're back in session.
So that's another.
Microphones are working.
Hearing yourself?
No, I just wanted to know if it was working or not.
Aaron Frazier, I don't know what he's doing.
What am I doing? Oh, no, I had pulled up the live stream to make sure the mics were dead before we went out on break. All right, you said that disposal fees were going up? Where's that recognized at on the budget?
That would be Miss Carolyn. She got that stuff took care of.
It's 359-000.
359-000. One page from the
The
back.
last page, yeah.
So I'd say it's almost in the back.
Like $10,000 figure.
There is, so there's disposal fees, tires, and disposal fee water. Water is the,
Water costs us to get rid of, it's leachate, and we split that with the city of Elizabeth.
Yeah, so their part's 45,000 this year as well. Is that
significantly correct.
And it will because
of
of
all
that.
that other stuff.
With the rain and just,
Tires, historically, was that line item rolled into something else historically before?
tires is money we receive from the state of Tennessee, but now we have to pay to get rid of those, as we take them in up there. We also receive money from the state in the form of either $1.20 or $1.50 per tire that's sold inside of our county. If they sell 4 tires, then, we get that money back through the revenue from the state of Tennessee. They send it directly to us.
Okay.
Once the tire operators report, the tire operators has to report how many they sold. And then they send us that money. And then it costs us, which we ain't got rid of no tires in a while because we've not had the extra people move them. We've got tires piled up that we need to get rid of. So once we start getting rid of them, then there'll be a cost there.
So we've got 25,000 in income for tire disposal fees. So this $10,000 expense, should it be 25,000 too? Are they?
Probably should. I didn't raise it because, like I say, we didn't deal with a lot of them last year. I don't know if we're gonna get to deal with a lot of them this year.
Should the $25,000 be decreased to 10,000?
No, absolutely not. I don't think so.
Because doesn't look like that was budgeted for last year. I don't know what it is, so I'm just asking, so the 10,000, should it be?
Let's just stay with the 10,000 on that, and we'll just see how it goes as we move tire.
Okay.
I have a question about the maintenance and repair services on the buildings, the equipment and vehicles. On the equipment, it's right at 45,000. And I mean, like most of our equipment's should be in fairly good shape, right?
Equipment,
Yeah. It's like 45,000 that you've estimated for repairs on it, and then 22,000 on the vehicles. So I was just curious,
like on a tractor and trailer, we had to put brakes on. Every time you do a brake job on a tractor and trailer, you look at $1,200. Easily. And then, Caterpillar, the yellow equipment, anything's got yellow on it, it's outrageous. And that's no joke. We've got pretty decent equipment, but still yet in the environment it works in, stuff happens to it all the time.
then you have down here on 418, it's the equipment and machinery parts at 45,000. So that's what I was wondering. Those just seem a bit high.
The equipment and repair is, I think, for the mechanic to come in to work on. We use an outside mechanic that comes as we call him. And then the parts would be the other line item.
So what's the charge of the CAT maintenance personnel when they send them out? What do they charge per hour?
$45 an hour.
45.
145, yeah. Yeah, 145.
I start saying, we're getting the deal. Now, what about your mechanic you pay?
He's at 100, I think, $100 an hour, maybe cheaper, it might be 75. But he's substantially reasonable on that.
And he's one of the best mechanics around. Our equipment, hours, they all came to my quarry, 325 down. His name and number, I'll give you, in 12 hours, had 325. The guys that's got all the computers and stuff and think they know it all, this guy's a mechanic on top of a technician. He's worth every penny. And I'm not just saying that because he's worked for me. I mean, I just watched what he did. He's square.
I'm just kind of comparing back and forth between what your unencumbered balance was at the end of last year versus what you've got budgeted this year. Like on your disposal fees, you still had 42,000 left in that line item at the end of the fiscal year. But you've still gone up another 10,000, you've still gone up about 10,000 more. So are you expecting the charges to come in at 50,000 more this year, or?
What happened there, Mr. Fraser, our rates raised, our tonnage rates, they raised, and then on top of that, they sent us another raise of 50 ton for what Sullivan County host fee or something like that, what Sullivan County charges them. So our tonnage rates actually went up that we're gonna be paying them probably in the neighborhood of $1.50, $1.75 a ton. And that's the reason I added that on to that, to make sure that we got through on our disposal fees.
Are you planning on purchasing another vehicle?
I put one in there for a pickup truck. Transmission went out of the $95 we got. It's more feasible to find a $1,600, $1,700 vehicle than it is pay $2,000 to have that put back in.
Is this in addition to the one that you just bought from Roger?
No, it's a pickup truck. That we haul our fuel and stuff around the landfill and stuff like that in, our oil trailers or. We've not got the one from Roger yet, I think. And I think they're still using it for a little bit, so.
The others will clear the budget last month, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the 20,000.
Tell him, since
I can't hear you.
since you're the owner now, that if he breaks it, he has to buy it back, right?
Hey, that's a good idea.
What's the maintenance running on the baler right now? What's the PM set for it and that sort of thing?
I think we've still got one free PM left on it through warranty. So after that, it'll be every 6 months that they come. The PM on the baler, you're probably looking at $3,500, $400.
Pulling that out of the, just the equipment, parts and machinery line?
And that should be in the recycle line item. We have a,
Or the machinery part?
yeah. And that line item covers our tow motors, our baler, our skid steer, tires for the skid steer, stuff of that nature.
Is that $2,500 increase enough to cover the maintenance on the baler?
Yes, ma'am, we'll be fine on that.
It should be, because it looks like the prior year, you'd only spent about $60 on the maintenance line for that one.
And a lot of that got confused sometimes because when you go to do a PO, they do the landfill line. So a lot of that got, you call and say, hey, you down there and say, hey, I need a part, or when they put it in, it would come out of the landfill line item. But everything at recycle, where Bobcat was is within 6 years old, or maybe it's kind of new. We got a new tow motor. So, the stuff at recycle should, and it don't take nowhere near the abuse landfill stuff does. So it's gonna be able to carry a little bit.
Has the wire gone up that much?
Yes.
Yes. I checked that myself too.
Yeah.
I thought, what? But I didn't believe it.
See, with a new baler now, we have to buy it by the spool versus we used to buy it in a 144 count roll of basically 144 pieces in it.
Yeah.
And when you manually tie it, so everything's in a spool now where it runs through the auto system.
Lines, could you identify your capital outlay?
Ms. Carolyn, is that in there for the truck payment, the 167,000?
167, yes.
Capital outlay?
At the very, down toward the very bottom of the last page, where it says other capital outlay.
That's the truck payment, baler, the whole,
That's the interfund loan.
yeah, it's the interfund loan.
The baler's paid for.
Okay.
It's paid for. But now the trucks are the interfund loan.
You, looks like you went up about 15,000. This is under the landfill. You went up about 15,000 on equipment, machinery, and parts. Line 418, you went up about 15,000 there. You also went up about 3,000 on vehicle parts. And so you still had 18,000 left out of both of those line items at the end of last year's budget.
This year alone, if I ain't mistaken, we've already had to do budget amendments on some of those to put money back in there. And that's part of the reason I went up. We've done several budget amendments over the year to put money in that line item. I put those increases in there to try to keep from having to do budget amendments. Just to caution you, an engine is $15,000 if one goes down. Every bit of it, not counting labor, put it in and so on.
$100 an hour too.
When a Caterpillar comes, they charge you from the time they leave the shop.
Anybody have any other questions for Mr. Lyons?
We need to figure out what the changes are. Or if there are any. So right now I've got, take out 3 vacant positions. I did go in there and look, and there's an account number issue with the way it is at Little Milligan. So Benny's gonna send me what I need to fix that.
Okay.
So that automatically put in benefits because it appeared to be a full-time position, even though that person doesn't currently have them like we discussed earlier. So that's basically $11,000. I'm gonna check to make sure that the salary amount didn't calculate too high as well for the number of hours, because that same thing, because it's in the wrong account number. So I'll go back and check that, but that would be a little bit, but not a significant number if it did. So I'll go back and check that, but that's the only thing I have for action items that need to be worked on. Is there anything else? Because even with that, we're still sitting, at a significant difference.
Is that 11,000 in addition to the 77,000 from earlier? So we're down to around 76,000 out of slot. Do we have some actuals to compare to for this year for like some of the maintenance fees and stuff like that? Not tonight, I'm just saying.
I mean, I ran it as it was today. So, let's see. So give me an example of one.
Hold on. Let's look at,
Maintenance repair service for
let me look for the account number.
recycle.
Yeah, we'll start with recycling. So
So it was originally at 6,000, we moved $3,500 out. To go down to other construction, same way with maintenance and repair. So that's taking those unencumbered amounts that are remaining down to like $1,000. but those were actually moved out to put into another line item. Let's see.
Let's look at just some of the ones that are kind of low hanging fruit, like 706 building construction.
He said that he needed that $10,000, correct, to finish something?
We still have, corner pieces where they got back, so we didn't do it on the existing recycle, the new part down there. We still got some corner pieces, some socket that still needs to go, be purchased.
All right.
Tried to purchase it as we went, so it wasn't laying around and get destroyed down there.
What about that fire exit door that they tried to break into? Has that thing been fixed yet? Or
We put a board on the inside of it.
Don, he rigged up two pieces of pipe and barricaded it, but I was wondering about that.
We've not done nothing with the door yet. We've got it on the inside because that door opens to the outside. So we've actually, or it opens to the inside, I'm sorry, so they can't push it in. So we've screwed stuff to the wall or where we can.
Well, was the door damaged? Did it go into insurance for recovery or?
Well, there was a few prime marks on it, and that particular door, I think, if I'm not mistaken, when we was setting that, the trustees had framed it in a little wider than what it should have been. It didn't shim it, so that give access to what it's done. But now, when it warms up, I think we can take it out, put another stud in, and be all right.
Because having a fire access door, the fire marshal's gonna frown upon that.
Oh, yeah, no, we've got another one on the other side of the building, we got two garage doors. So we're good on fire escape.
So what about this 20,000 on the crushed stone? Because I thought that it was gonna be cement down there, concrete down at the.
Are we in the recycle line item?
No, this is solid waste.
Solid waste, we could use $100,000 on stone. And, because as soon as you put it down up there, it leaves. The demo area,
So I wasn't sure because it was on two different times, so that's why I was wondering.
no, it's, that's for the landfill. And then, like our convenience centers, I think we got a small amount in there for crushed stone, and the only one that takes crushed stone is Little Milligan.
Where's the other line item at? Julie, I don't see it.
The one that I'm looking at was 409, but then there was another one. I got my eyeballs to focus. It was, the first one was 55,754, and I think the other one was 55,7.
5575,
55,732 for it.
32 should be,
$2,000.
how much?
The first one on the 55,732 was 2,000, and the other one was.
That should be Little Milligan, I think, for stone up there. And then the big one is at the landfill.
754, okay.
But the 409, I have it listed here at 15, right? And then electricity's 2,000. I lose track on the lines.
On my sheet, Little Milligan is $1,500.
Yeah.
Is it, did I look at it?
Yeah, electricity's 2,000.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was on that line.
If I look
You're
at.
gonna have to give us lines for our.
Everybody group.
Want to work
With the magnifier on it.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, I've got a big
That too
little
high.
ruler that I use in my office when I'm going across, because that's why I'm sitting here trying to follow it. I mean, based on current, like right now, I mean, disposal fees are, there may be some wiggle room in there. And in maintenance and repair equipment in the landfill budget, but that's up to you. I mean, I'm just looking at, they asked me to look at what the actuals were, so I'm just looking at what was in there for March. I mean, where it was as far as what amount is unencumbered, but you know what's coming up, not me, so.
We've also did budget amendments to put money into the line item, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, there's been money moving back and forth between some of these. We took 42,000 out of disposal fees to move it somewhere else for this year, but I don't know if we'll run short or not. I mean, there's still money in there, but I just took what it was in March and multiplied it by 12, and it's significantly less than what is the combination of those three line items. So that's all I'm doing. I don't know. You know what's going on. I don't. I'm just trying to get a list of, when you and I meet again, what we need to change. And so right now, all I've got are those other three things that we've already talked about.
That's the only one. That's the only one left, those three.
So it's still going to put us at a deficit.
We're still at about 77,000 on deficit. Well, 240-some thousand on deficit, but,
Yeah.
77 off of it.
yeah. Well, no, it'd be 88.
88 off.
Yeah, 88 off the three.
And then you're not counting the 167, correct?
I mean, it needs to be accounted for, but it's just part of what,
Part of that deficit.
it's part of that deficit,
It's
so.
included in that deficit.
What I'm looking for whenever I say that that's what I'm referring to as like a self-inflicted wound. So we did the interfund loan. We know we're going to have to pay that regardless of what it's going to come up regardless of what the landfill makes. Then what I'm trying to do is get down to the very bottom dollar of what extra is in there to make sure that it's in line with where it needs to be. I'm not super concerned about that. And the change in trucker salary, is,
Yes, because that did.
We did raise that this last year.
yeah, that's like 55,000, 65,000. That's 65,000 right there, where we made those changes in a midline budget change. So, and I think some of that, there were like one extra trucker that's listed in there, so that's gonna account for like 30,000. So there's like 30,000 of that's in there. So that puts us down to around 40-some thousand out of the budget, where it's above and beyond what we should normally expect. Does that make sense?
We're at about 77,000.
Yeah.
That we're short.
Yeah. I think it's like around, I think it'll end up being, well, some of it, like I said, some of it's where we increased the trucker salary. We've got one extra position in there, which will account for, how
I've
much?
already taken that into consideration.
Yeah, and then.
That was the 29,140, but that's part of the 77. So we're,
About the 77,000.
so it makes it, we're about $77,000 short if you're trying to make it a balanced budget within that fund.
Yeah, and
It's rough numbers, but that's about where we're at.
well, and then there's another 31,000 from the extra trucker.
We're already taking that into consideration.
Right, and then we changed their salary midstream this year. We gave them a bump, and so I'm assuming that's making up the other bit of the difference in that particular line item.
In that line item, yes.
In that line item.
Talking about bottom line, we're still
Yeah.
trying to balance the budget. We're about $77,000 short of being able to balance in total.
Yeah.
So it's just coincidental that that's about the same number, and that's just a rough estimate. You can take a little bit. So I don't know if the goal is to balance it within the fund, or what that is. That's up to you guys to
Yeah.
decide. I'm just letting you know how short we are.
What is the point that you guys think that it should be set at the balance point? That's really what it is, because I'm not gonna say where I think the point should be just straight out, but
Well, that's why I
give me
was
some
asking
feedback.
the action items of what we do now. So we either leave it alone or we gotta look at some other things that need to be adjusted, or what do we do at this point?
Because it doesn't do us any good to quote unquote balance the budget if it's not gonna be close to their actuals. So we've kinda gotta be relatively in the ballpark. And just, if we're trying to balance it against the 300,000, we're still 244 out.
We put the 167 back in.
Yeah.
You'll never get it down.
Yeah.
No way.
You got it.
Well, that only leaves you one choice.
Yeah, you'd gut it. There would be budget amendments throughout the entire year that would all be coming out of the other side of fund balance. So just making it a balanced budget on paper isn't what we want. We want an actual functional balanced budget is what they need. I'm not saying budget amendments are always a terrible thing because weird stuff happens. I'm just saying that account for enough weirdness and keep us in line with roughly where we need to be at.
I mean, it needs to be a real deal budget and not just,
It used to be functional.
yes.
It used to be functional, not fictional.
And guys, the thing about my budget is it's probably different from anybody in the county because I never know what I'm gonna bring in. These other departments know they're getting 2 pennies on the dollar or a penny on the dollar. We don't have a clue what we're gonna bring in year to year.
Yeah. So what I would say, the lack of tremendous amounts of feedback, I would say that go back and compare some of your actuals so far this year with the committee, and then try to factor that out. Obviously, take into account what the fees are going up with the other location. Might be something that you can scrape by from that on the disposal fees. There was still a chunk of change left at the end of last year, and you went up another 40,000 this year. So I assume there might be a little bit there. I'm not saying you need to cut 100,000 out of it or anything like that, but there might be, just factor it out a little bit and see if you can find a little bit there. And maybe look on some of the maintenance fees, how much you've spent. Always keep enough to fix something if it, in a break fix situation, always make sure that there's enough in there for that. But we're in a game of dimes this year, trying to get stuff down to where it needs to be, where we have a very good idea whenever we're adding in for the employee raises, that what we're setting the tax rate at is as close to what it needs to be as possible, without having to come in here 3, 4, 5 years in a row, raising taxes every year because we made a mistake. So but yeah, you've still got to get the employees fixed. So that one's got to go back anyway. So, but in the meantime, just see if you can find other places where you can steal some dimes from.
Come back on the 13th with the changes, or another one of the dates? 20th?
Let's go for the 13th of April.
Okay.
Fraser, let me ask you something on this.
Go ahead.
On the employee raises. Whatever you decide to give them, it's still going to have to come out of my budget. County don't put that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes in, it's going to be the same for all the departments. It's going to be the same for all the departments. We're not asking you to come up and fund those.
Oh, I have to. It comes out of my budget.
I know, but we also fund your budget.
The county funds anything that you're short.
Yeah, the county funds any differences or shortages or anything like that. So if we're adding money into what we're giving you on the annual, that's where it's going to be coming in from. Because if you have a deficit on the budget, we have to fund it. Same for Jared's department or any of the other departments. There's funds that go out into those to set them up, shore them up. Because it's coming in off of the sales tax revenue into the main part of the county.
When's the landfill meeting next? Schedule.
First Monday of the month, first Monday of April.
I'm just trying to think logistically, if there would have to be a special called landfill meeting, because this will have to be corrected, then it'll have to go back to landfill committee before it comes back to budget on the 13th. I'm just thinking logistics to see if that will work.
Is that gonna work?
It should, because
It's on the third, I think.
it's on the 3rd.
It's on the third.
Yeah.
Okay,
We couldn't get it any sooner because you wouldn't have enough notification.
all right, so.
Well, you can still call a meeting early, but it's still, if it's an emergency meeting type situation, you can call them early. You can't get it in the paper for enough time, but there would still be enough time to put it in notification on the website and in the courthouse.
So any changes that you want to make to anything other than the salary stuff, which you and I can go over that, and I can figure that out probably tomorrow or the next day. I need it I need it by Friday. If that meeting's on Monday, right? In order to get it out to the committee.
7th.
Hmm?
So you're saying you need it by the 7th.
No, so you said the landfill meeting is on the 3rd, so I need any other changes from you by Friday,
The 31st.
the 31st, in order to get it put in the schedules and sent out to the committee for you all to review and approve again before it goes to budget. Otherwise, you're gonna have to be, again, a special call sometime between the 3rd and
The
the
13th.
13th. I'm just trying to keep you from having to have an additional meeting. So is that doable, Benny?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can get me any other changes by Friday, because this other stuff, I can do that tomorrow, because that's pretty cut and dried, so that's easy to put in and get that done. I can't do the other stuff. I mean, that's yours to do, so I don't know what you want to do. So you could get it to me, like Thursday or early Friday.
I'll have it to you Thursday.
Okay.
So what I understand, you're going to go back to the budget and stuff by Thursday.
Well, we know that we've got some that's coming out.
Right, besides that though.
Yeah, the stuff I'm fixing, I can fix that without, other than him just approve it once I fix it.
Yeah, I'm just saying, look at the actuals, look at the proposed, and take into account and see if some of the raises actually need to be in there as of right now, or if there's potentially some wiggle room. Because everybody likes to play it safe, so they don't have to come back for budget amendments or anything like that. But some of the line items in the end of the fiscal year of the unencumbered balance as of the end of last year, a lot of the line items ended out pretty significant. And I'm just saying, if there is a potential for some wiggle room, look at those line items and see if, well, you might have it overstated, 5 or 10%. I'm not saying it's got to be $100,000 out of an individual line item or anything like that. Just a couple grand here, a couple grand there to try to pull it down.
If you just compare your unencumbered funds versus what your proposed is for this budget, you'll find your wiggle room faster than anything.
Yeah.
It may be 5%, it may be 1%. And then again, it will be anything.
Stuff like tubes and tires, you had like $100 left over out of that line item. No, I don't think anybody's saying go in there and try to steal, try to find $100, cut that one by $100. But some of the more significant ones, like the disposal fees, $620,000, and you had $42,000 left at the end of last year. And you went up another 10,000 this year. I understand it's going up, but if there's 10,000 in there that can be saved, that's 10,000 more that doesn't have to, we don't have to particularly fund. But if the math says, yeah, I'm gonna need that extra 10 grand, go with it.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons to add this to the schedule, because I know it's huge already anyway, was to help in this type of situation. If you need to go back and tweak some things, that's a good place to start, is to say, hey, what happened last year? What's different this year? Do I need to increase it? Maybe, do I have a little bit too much wiggle room in it? That we can pull a little bit out. So that was kind of the purpose of putting that in there. And I put it in red so that it was easier, maybe a little more obvious to see it if there were some differences there.
And like the medical insurance line, it went from 49,000 to 110,000.
Well,
That's
and
gonna change.
Because he added two more employees,
Two
so.
more employees, and then we, like I said, we went back and looked, and that one is just an account number issue.
Yeah.
Fix. So I'll fix that, and that's where the additional 11,000 came from.
Yeah.
It'll come out of here.
Yeah.
Well, she'll drop it almost in half. Instead of 15%, it'll be less than that.
Yeah.
So he's gonna recover some money on that.
I started to say, I'll go ahead, it
We'll-
would be silly not to do it. I'll go ahead and make that change too, because I can't imagine it's not gonna be what I said it was. And so that will help us too. A
Exactly,
little bit. So
exactly.
that'll reduce some of that deficit as well.
Anybody have anything else for Director Lyons?
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Benny.
Adjourned, sir? Or you need a motion?
Oh, well, I was just gonna see if anybody had any comments, questions, anything like that. I know everybody's reading full fire hose right now.
Yeah, is there anything, any additional information that you all want to see that you don't have right now? Because I mean, all of them are set up obviously exactly the same. So, yes, I mean,
Did you tell everybody about these?
kind of, sort of, do not lose them. I cannot emphasize that enough, do not lose them.
Well, you can come in here.
On outside agencies, they come in and they bring us 12 copies, so, or 8 copies. So that's what I've given out, everything that we currently have scheduled. So when we go to the next meeting, we're still trying, I think there's 8 or 9 that we've not been able to kind of pin down on if they're coming or when they're coming or all that stuff. So,
I'd say they're not coming.
so if they don't come by the 20th, that's the last alternate date I gave the option for. I'll just give you the additional information before that meeting, so you'll have all of it, but we were kind of trying to do it as they came in, so you can kind of have it and be able to review it. Last year it was given out at the meeting, which is what I understood was historically done. That's not really fair, because you're listening to what they're saying and you don't have time to review the information and listen to them and all that at the same time.
But you don't.
So this way you've got it a couple of weeks early and you've got plenty of time to kind of read through it, and you can formulate any questions that you might have for the actual person who's presenting for that agency.
Did anybody send us any $8 business cards this year so I can just automatically throw that one in the trash?
No.
Cool. That actually happened, guys. All right, we stand adjourned. We'll pick back up. When's the next meeting, Carolyn? Thursday.
Take a day off.
No, it's not Thursday, is it?
No, it's next week.
Next week.
All right.
We don't have any more.
was trying to get my dollar.
That's for
Somebody said Thursday, and I was like, wait, what? I was gonna shoot
Through my voice over.
10th and the 13th.
Wanna go shoot. 10th and 13th, yeah, that's the week.
that one.
That's Leon Humphrey. One schedule, one time you can do anything.
He's here the other night, but Brad wasn't here, so he left.
See that?
So I'll try to get as many of them.
See y'all. Be good.
In case we have more
I'm gonna go home.
that need to be done on the 20th.
Okay.
Potentially, if anybody gets kicked out. So the 24th may be a short meeting.
We're Fat City on that. Don't watch her. She'll go like a Roman candle behind her back. She will do it.
Oh, dude, Kelvin had a game tonight. You know when they scheduled it?
Monday, Thursday, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
No, you know what time you know when they told us the game was tonight? Yesterday.
Practicing already?
Yeah, it's a scrimmage tonight, so I missed the whole thing, big 3 innings still.
I might go out and buy some,
I've got some.
I figured you'd let me know.
I have a camera.
What comes to my mind?
I got something nice enough they could, put it in the dugout and film the game from.
That's.
You really want to put the camera in a dugout full of kids?
I said dugout, I didn't.
You can set it behind the backstop and put it close, potentially put it close enough to the fence to where it would go through, but then it doesn't get hit by baseball. I know that, I know.
You can't put it
To
in the
see the nasty water.
Yeah.
Nasty water. 'Cause
You
I-
have access to the tower and you can. You playing Cat Island or you playing Lionsfield?
He's playing Lionsfield.
Okay.
That's how the process rolls.
There is a tower. There's access.
Really?
You know what I'm saying?
Well, we better get Chad home.
Is that still on?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all chatting.
Well, when you see Jim, you tell him I said hello.
I will.
I may see him before you do.
I see him about every
Having that.
Monday. He's down at my grandma's house. So.
Hey, listen, keep that out.